please call the roll.
Commissioners Rahman,
Present.
Long,
Here.
Howell,
Here.
Cavell,
Here.
Charles,
She does not know wrong.
Wypert,
Here.
Hoffman,
Present.
Markham.
Here.
Material quorum.
Great. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the approval of the minutes for July 12th as well as July 20th. I'll take a motion. Commissioner Rahman, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. Any comments, changes, or deletions to those minutes? Okay, let's prompt the vote.
Mayor Chair, you have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Minutes are approved. Next, we have today's agenda. I need a motion. Commissioner Long, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. Any additions or deletions to today's agenda? Seeing none, let's prompt the vote, please. Agenda.
Mayor Chair, you have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
All right. Next up, we have our public comment. Is there anyone from the public who cares to address the Finance Committee today? You will have 3 minutes. Seeing no one, I will close public comment and we will move on to our department recommendations. Item 7A, acceptance of the FY 2024 Michigan Indigent Defense Commission grant. I need a motion. Commissioner Wypert, supported by Commissioner Powell. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Pete Mena, I manage the Indigent Defense Services Office. This is an item to accept our yearly grant from the state to run our indigent defense system. You can see that the total grant amount that we're accepting this year is just over $21 million. Each year, we also contribute our local share, which is indexed to CPI or 3%, whichever is less. And it does not compound, it always resets to its original every year. So we're at just over 1.8 million that the county puts in, plus the 21 million grant amount, giving us a total budget of just over $23 million. I did not prepare a PowerPoint for today because I'm going to be back in 3 weeks for my budget
Thank you.
presentation with all of you, so I will do that then. But the major change for FY24 is the implementation of hourly rates across the board. So that's MIDC Standard 8. Essentially, other than a very few specific items where we are still going to pay a shift rate, most everything else is going to be paid hourly. So attorneys will itemize their time. They're going to be paid an hourly rate for the work that they put in. The hourly rate is going to range from $120 an hour for misdemeanor cases all the way up to $192 an hour for capital life offense felony. So, I mean, definitely below what a retained attorney would get.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
Absolutely, but
Right.
you know, when it comes to appointed indigent counsel, I mean, the rates that we are able to implement in this county have just grown by leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, which is excellent. So we are, as you all know, this year we established an internal public defender's office. That is up and running. Our chief public defender has hired, at this point, I think she's hired 5 attorneys, 2 of which have started already and the others are starting in late August. So that's getting built up, and we're adding another attorney in that office and a social worker next fiscal year. But the main change, like I said, when you look at a budget of this year, which is about 16 million, going to 23, it's mostly down to that hourly rate that we're paying attorneys.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Mena? Commissioner Cabell?
Hey Pete, it's cool to see your budget growing, that's great. I was wondering, do you have, or is it ever part of like your work or consciousness to think about restorative justice practices? I've heard a lot about that in like Des Moines and all that. I know it's generally been done on the prosecutor side, but.
Well, and
So what's the question? I didn't hear it.
Oh, sorry.
The question was if we've ever looked at restorative justice practices, and what that is typically is a situation where all parties come together. You have some maybe counseling sessions, maybe sort of mediation sessions between a crime victim, a person who may have been alleged to commit that crime, prosecution, defense, to some of it is done through pretrial diversion. So you might say, well, we're gonna do this in lieu of actually charging you with the crime. Restorative justice can work that way, or it can also work after someone is charged with a crime through the plea bargaining process. So what I would say to that is I do think that that's an area of exploration. A lot of that has to be done in conjunction with the prosecutor's office because it's something that they have to also think is valuable. And I think that they do. I think that they are looking at especially pretrial diversion programs. I certainly don't speak for them, but I do think that they're looking at that. And it's just figuring out the right mechanism in the county to be able to do that. So I do think in the next several years you will see more of that.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, sounds like it's been a year of getting it together.
Yes. Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
Thank you.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, great, thank you. Motion carries. Next up is Department Recommendation 7B, Court Management System Gap Analysis and Risk Assessment. I need a motion. Commissioner Charles,
Make sure it's passed.
Commissioner Hawk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think caller one might be Ken Tice. I don't know if that's correct or not. If we can unmute. We're really taking a chance here. Ken, are you on?
Yes, I'm on.
Oh, he is caller one, okay.
Okay, good.
So I will kick this off a little bit. We started this process, we've started this process a while ago. We have a court management system that is aging significantly in the system and it needs to be addressed. We put a request for proposal out this past year and we're moving down that path. At the same time, we were approached by SCAO, the Michigan Supreme Court, talking about trying to get all of the courts on their system. Ken and I went up, this was prior to Rod being hired, we went up to Lansing and sat down with the chief judge to try to understand the requirements that are required. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to spend $8 to $12 million on a new court management system and then be required by the state to use another system that does not meet the requirements, because that's going to be wasteful spending. So what we did is we put a hold on the RFP process. We did talk to the clerk, Clerk Brown, as well as the chief judge for the circuit court as well, to share this information with them, that we need to do a gap analysis in regards to the functionality that is required by our circuit court and what can be provided by other requirements from SCAO. And that's what's in front of you today as we move forward. Ken's on a sailboat right now, so I really apologize, Ken. Ken, could you hear what I said, Ken?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, just one piece to add to it, the state court administrative, you know, their goal and direction is to provide a statewide system. They're actually funding the system as well, the implementation of their system. So, you know, as Sean talked about, right, you know, this analysis is really to look at the risk associated with our current system and to see whether or not it makes sense to migrate to the state system, but more importantly, to validate that the state system is ready for us and that it can accommodate everything that Oakland County needs. So for us, right, you know, we obviously would love to leverage state funds to actually implement a court case management system and not have to spend Oakland County money to be able to fund that activity. So that's really what this is designed to do, is to look at our current system to see how much risk we are taking in continuing the system, and then working with CAO to validate when they could accommodate us, and so we can make an informed decision on how to best move forward and how to be best leveraging you know, the limited dollars and resources that we have.
And that's the basic setup,
Okay.
so.
All right, so I'll open it up to questions. Commissioner Rahman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It makes sense. I think it's great that you're doing this and ultimately saving us money. I just want to clarify, $479,000 is the cost of this study?
Yeah, the gap analysis, there's a timing issue on this as well. I mean, we need to move quickly. When RFPs go out too, there's only so long that those RFPs stay active as well. So also part of that price point. This is not, it's important to understand, I'm not fond of sole sourcing. So our approach here was not to go to one vendor and look to sole source. We took, I think it was 3 or 4 different vendors and approached them to negotiate kind of the right price points, given the emergency nature of this purchase, as opposed to going to one vendor. And so this is the vendor partnering with another one that was the best setup.
Yeah, I trust you've done due diligence. It just, to me, it seems like a lot of money for a study, but again, I don't know the space and, you know.
There's a lot of, Ken, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I do. Thank you so much. I think it's a great, it's a really great question, because it is. It's a lot of money. It's a 5-month effort, but it's a very, first and foremost, as Sean talked about, this assessment is really doing 2 things. One is a pure risk assessment on our current mainframe system and understanding how much we're experiencing performance issues, significant performance issues, and they are getting worse and worse. So the first thing we want to do is obviously assess our current court case management system, our mainframe system, and understand how much risk we are and what needs to be done to be able to mitigate the instability issues that we're having. The second major part of this is to do a gap analysis to what the state system, the statewide system does, and compare it to the needs of Oakland County. And to understand, because the state system has been rolled out to a number of courts throughout the state, but nothing to the size and magnitude of Oakland County. So we need to make sure that it has the functionality and has the overall foundation to operate a large organization such as Oakland County. So it's really 2 very, very significant studies that are coming together that will ultimately lead to a recommendation on how Oakland County should move forward. And ultimately, again, if it's a statewide system, we will save significant money in using state resources versus county resources, and then this study will help validate or disvalidate that direction.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Cavell.
I remember, if I'm not remembering right correctly, but I thought last year in the court's budget hearing and request, they talked about wanting money for a court management system, and that they were possibly thinking of going it alone or doing their own thing to help make the state want to shift to what Oakland County does or something? So I'm trying to say this diplomatically, but like, is this basically to prove to the court that we should wait for the state to help leverage their money, and we need to spend this money to tell the court that we should wait for the state to come in?
I think that they raised some valid questions. I believe that was in their budget. They went through the process. They live this every day, and so and I think that they're concerned of whether SCAO can deliver or not. And so I think that those concerns are valid. We've shared those with SCAO as well. So we don't wanna put our head in the sand and say, hey, it's free money from the state to get on SCAO's system. I'm sorry, we're going this direction, and not listen to our customer, the circuit court, who's got some concerns. So at the same time, because they know they're on an IT mainframe system that is a rickety bridge, and so they're concerned about its failure as well. So I think this is for us to say, hey, listen, before we run down the road and spend $10 million on a new system when we could have used SCAO's system, let's do our due diligence. Let's make sure whether SCAO can handle this or not. And if they can't handle this, then it will also better articulate what should be in the RFP and what shouldn't be in the RFP as well.
Okay. And then I had one more question, which might be more for the budget folks, but how much do we have in our non-departmental general fund?
I would defer to our budget people.
Kyle popped right up.
Let's go to.
Wow, that's an
did,
audible
yeah,
sigh,
you
Kyle, my
shall receive.
bad.
The big one.
So these funds are being transferred for utilization on this project from a $2 million pool of funding that was approved by the board as part of the current FY 2023 budget. I forget what the balance left in that fund is, but it's roughly $1 million, so there's more than enough to cover this.
And then what is just the general fund non-departmental?
The general fund, well, that's a large question, so, you know, the non-departmental section of the budget is where we reserve funds, you know, for things that aren't allocated to a specific department as the fiscal year starts. So in this case, there's a pool of funding for IT development projects. And as those projects are vetted, you know, through IT and through county executive leadership and then brought to you, the dollars are transferred, you know, out of that section of the budget into the specific department where the, you know, where the project is going to occur.
Right, how much is in there? Or we're gonna get to it.
We can
Okay, we'll get to it next,
during
okay,
that section,
got it, okay,
absolutely.
no worries, thanks.
Is that it, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Jen.
I'm making a summary.
I'm good, yeah.
Okay, anybody else? All right, seeing no one, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
Sailing,
Too much fun on that
John, we need to get out there.
This is no laughing matter.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas or?
Remote work.
Motion
Sailing is much
carries.
more fun apparently.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Next up, item 8A, under Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee recommendations, we have the agreement between Oakland County and the People's Express for local public transportation services. Moved by Commissioner Weipert, supported by Commissioner Long. Good morning.
Good morning. Are we
You're
not gonna,
good.
are we good? Okay.
Yeah.
So, we as,
Do you want to have the presentation up for you?
I mean, just ask the people maybe that didn't see it.
You guys, yeah, let's put it up.
Yeah.
we can go through.
Several of us have seen it, but we might as well, for anybody who might have a question. See your screen.
While that's coming up, good morning, it's still morning, got 5 minutes left. I'm Eli Cooper, I'm the transit manager. Came on board in the county earlier this year. Kristen Wolfang is probably well known to all of you. And also with us is Evelina Taylor from People's Express, the partner that we're looking to join with us in providing transit service in the southwest quadrant of the county. Okay, so in the beginning of 2023, following the millage, we had NODA, WODA, OPC, and SMART providing service. There were two larger areas that were not served by an existing authority. It was up in the northwestern part of the county and the southwestern. What we found out was People's Express had individual contracts with municipalities in the southwest. And in order to bring them along in a similar way as the other served communities, we engaged in a conversation with local communities and with the operator, culminating in a development of the item that we're bringing forward. Want to quickly show that the services that are currently in place, when you look at the beautiful colors on that map, each community has a very small service district. So if you live in the city of South Lyon and you want to travel outside, it's not available to you. So that's a problem, particularly with adoption of the county millage. So what we're looking to do is to bring People's Express in under the county millage in a service agreement for these communities. In essence, it's a similar agreement. I don't want to say exactly the same, but similar to what we have with North Oakland, West Oakland, and OPC, in that if all things go well with the committees and the board, we get action in early August that regional service, sub-regional service will start on September 1st. The purple line outlining the image on the screen behind me now is their driving area. The purple area, bluish area in the middle reflects the geography of the 7 communities that will be served by this provider if everything goes well. What's underlined and what's critical important is that not only is this an integration of service and enhancement for the current riders, but we're demonstrating how a specialized service provider can accommodate public trips as well. So dramatically different than the NODA, WODA, and OPC that limit their services to a target population. The People's Express will both serve at a discounted fare, the targeted population, but are also opening their doors to provide service to the general public. We're hoping that we have a positive experience and are able to bring a broader level of service to the other operators because we're going to take away the scariness of opening doors to general public being something that may or may not, and we believe it may not, overwhelm these smaller operations. In summary, what we've negotiated is a monthly charge for services from People's Express of $89,000 per month. We've also included capital for acquisition of new vehicles as part of this agreement. There is an offset, so there are state dollars that come through SMART called municipal credits, as well as eligibility for other state and federal subsidies that the way this agreement is structured is that we, the county, are committing to fulfill People's Express's needs to provide the service, and that these intergovernmental transfers, should they be earned, will be credited back to the county. So the worst case scenario is that we would need to fund the $89,000. We believe per month. We believe that the municipal credits, contingent upon the action with the interlocal agreement and the local communities that have already committed to us that they will sign those over to the operator, will be less. The 8 vehicles will be, and I used the term at the last meeting, shiny new vehicles, in order to provide a high level, high quality of service to all of our passengers. Do you want me to walk through the interlocal agreement? I can keep going right through it.
Just go quickly.
Yeah,
If
so.
somebody has a question, go ahead and raise your hand
No, I did.
if you
So
have a
the,
question.
The last meeting.
Okay, Commissioner Cavell.
You can go.
Okay, well, I just wanna learn more about what these municipal credits were.
That's what's up right now, so great,
Okay.
great question, and it just so happens that I have top drawer response for you.
Nice, I got it.
So what happens is we all pay, whether it's vehicle fees, gas tax, we pay into through Act 51 to the state. The dollars flow from the state treasury to MDOT, from MDOT to the local transit authority, in our case, it's SMART. And then they make available for reimbursement with the state gas tax and vehicle fee reimbursement for transit services offered within their geography. It's kind of a give back from the taxes generated from that jurisdiction. What'll happen in this instance, those specific dollars that are allocated to the 7 communities will be pledged to support the People's Express service. And so there's a lot more detail here, but basically it's vehicle and gas tax money flowing through a series of hands, getting back to the intended purpose of the original payment, which was for public transportation services in the jurisdiction that generates the revenue.
Is there an admin fee for that at each step along the way?
The only one that I'm not familiar that MDOT, but SMART does have a small takeoff that they take for administering the funds. And again, they have a 3-county region where they serve as the administrator of these funds. And it does take time for them to process. They have separate agreements with every community, so the 62 CVTs in Oakland County have agreements with SMART, and again, it's handling money.
It should be noted that some of these communities were not getting the SMART credits the way they thought they should be. And this group, in making this happen, worked that system and was able to retrieve all those SMART credits that these local communities were not getting in the past. And so it has really helped to change the tone a little bit with some of these local communities, as I understand it. So Kristen, I
Not this
understand.
group, I'm gonna
Yeah,
do
it was
the pointy
Kristen.
thing.
Kristen
Did a
and,
wonderful job.
so,
3-4 years ago.
yeah. Commissioner Hoffman.
The agreement that is being proposed here today between People's Express and Oakland County, do we have similar agreements with WODA and NODA?
Yes.
It's all, okay.
Again, it's similar, not identical, because they're
Right.
they were written into the millage as part of our partners, so there's subtle differences.
The base
Okay.
contract is the same. It's the exhibits that are different. So the scope of services and then the terms of payment are different. And those
Okay.
get negotiated every year, the Exhibit A and Exhibit B do.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Cavell, you gonna slow us down again?
That's what it be, yeah, I'm here for it. What did the Transit Ad Hoc Committee say when you guys, just about this expense? The 1 million?
I believe it's on the agenda for today, for the ad hoc committee. And we
After finance?
we briefly mentioned it to them at the last ad hoc committee. They were supportive of it, so, and the reimbursement program as well, so.
Just to point out, is that the flow of things as they go through the binding committee, then the suggested ad hoc recommendation afterwards? Feels backwards. Alright,
I think it's
and part of why I was wondering that is, I remember when we were talking about the millage back in August, there was talk about People's Express getting some money and then this also being added to it. So how much has People's Express with this, will they be getting from the millage to date?
Well, and the 89,000 a month is the upper limit, because there's gonna be the other dollars that are gonna come in, whether it's the municipal credit, whether it's local bus operatings, that the funds that the state also administers and distributes. So the worst case is the 89,000 a month between now and the beginning of the year, plus the capital cost for the 8 vehicles that we're purchasing and they're purchasing and that we use to provide the service.
But have we already set aside money for People's Express? I don't recall.
So if I may jump in, so the reimbursement program that was passed, I believe at the last meeting, so that will fund the community's reimbursement to People's Express out of their general fund from January 1st through August 31st. So then this contract will pick up from September 1st through the end of the year.
Thank you. Okay. And then I saw in the resolution that it, or something that it's $2 for indigent people. I mean, why not, since you're the boss too, right? Why not make it free for poor people?
So these fares have been negotiated amongst the providers, and again, there's a well-established practice of having a fare in order to represent the value of the service provided.
It's
And
the
it
same for NODA, WODA, and OPC, so it's consistent across the county now.
Right.
Yeah, it's $2 everywhere, right?
Do you guys just have any interest in talking more about it being free for poor people?
So there's always interest. There have been many communities that have tried experiments with running public transit fixed route fare free, and the outcome isn't necessarily as you would get. It doesn't generate ridership. The folks that are transit riders are going to ride it whether there's a fare or not a fare.
Right.
And so the question, the issue of the public utility and the partnership and the value of the services, but obviously be interested in exploring if there's a policy direction to do so.
Great. Don't leave after you're done. We got something for you. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing no one else, let's go ahead and. This is a receiving file. No, this is a receiving file?
No,
it's a recommendation.
Both, yeah. Thank you. All morning.
Yes, thank you.
Another long meetings.
We'll see you at one.
Motion carries. Next up, we have a presentation on the county budget overview, item 9A.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and then there's a PDF here.
Need a motion, I guess?
Oh, for receive and file, I think.
To receive and file. Commissioner Long, supported by Commissioner Wyper.
Yeah, you want to file.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, I'm Kyle.
Oh, no, we're afternoon, look.
Oh, yeah,
It's supposed to be morning, afternoon.
Good morning, Kyle Jen, Director of Management and Budget. Obviously, all of you heard a lot about the county budget last Thursday at the full board meeting, so we don't wanna, to take up a lot of time repeating that. But we do wanna make sure that you have clarity in terms of what's in front of you. There are two different budget books. And make sure that you understand where to look for things as you're going through the process with each of the departments on their individual budget hearings. And since you heard from me last Thursday, I'm gonna stop talking and let Cheryl Johnson, our Fiscal Services Officer, kick us off on the presentation. I would like to take just a moment to recognize the efforts of staff in particular this year. The product you're seeing looks a lot like the product you've seen in past years, but it was a completely different system and a completely different process that was used to build this budget. It's a system that integrates with Workday, which is gonna lead to, some efficiencies and improved, data, and ability to analyze our budget going forward. But anytime you're using a new system for the first time, it takes a lot longer than it does in a normal year. So not just Cheryl, but Kim Coy and Ebru Jones are here as the leaders of our budget team, and then the whole team back at the office, who put in a lot of extra time and effort. So I just wanted to
If you need anything, it takes longer.
And with that, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. That was a really nice introduction, thanks, Cal. I'm gonna try and change it up a little bit. So if you have questions, if I may, just go ahead and ask them. I'm gonna try and do just a really quick brief overview. You guys have been through this a couple of times, so there's no need to really sit here and talk about some of the things that you all already know. I'm gonna try and make it a non-accounting kind of a presentation. So if I'm going too fast, please stop me. Or if you have any questions as I go, just feel free to speak up because sometimes I forget that we all don't geek speak like this. So the very first slide I have is just a quick reference for everybody about the fund types. We're mostly gonna focus on the general fund, general purpose, which is primarily supported by our tax dollars and charges for services and the revenues that we get from the state and the federal government. The special revenues are grant funds. Those usually have tasks tied to them. Sometimes we match those funds, sometimes we don't. And then proprietary funds are the funds that are operated like a business, like water resources and parks are two of our major proprietary funds that we don't go too much into. But the main focus today is gonna be on those general fund, general purpose funds. And I see you taking pictures. I can email you the slide deck. Oh, okay. Yeah, so you're good. So the next slide is the all funds, the graphical presentation of the general fund compared to the special revenue funds and the proprietary funds. So as you can see, the bulk, like 50% of our budget is general fund, general purpose, and then we have 10% that's the special revenue, which are the grant type funds, and then about 40% are operated for water resources and our other proprietary funds. This next slide is the general fund budget summary. So on the left, you'll see the revenue piece, and on the right, you're gonna see
50%.
the expenditure piece. These are graphic representations of what's in your line item budget on page 52, and then the expenditures start on page 60. So if you're looking at these and you wanna see like, okay, here's property taxes, maybe you wanna see where we started, where we ended up, or a trend, you're gonna wanna flip through your large book. And like I said, around page 52 to about 63 is where we have a lot of those summary reports. There's some of them are broken down by department, but most of them you'll see like, how much are we getting from property tax? How much are we getting from the intergovernmental revenues, which is state revenue sharing and federal dollars, charges for service and things like that. The expenditures are broken down by personnel, operating expenditures, expenses, internal service, and transfers out. You will see those starting on page 60 to 63. There's a lot of detail in there, but this will give you, again, just the overview of what percentages we're spending. You can see that the bulk of our revenue comes from property taxes, and that primarily supports the bulk of our expenditures, which are personnel costs. Okay, so this slide this is a really cool slide that Kyle put together this time. And the reason I like this slide is it shows you the general fund, general purpose by function. So you get a really good idea of what departments are utilizing general fund, what departments are utilizing some of the grant revenue, and what departments like water resources you can see is primarily the beige color because that's primarily an enterprise fund. So this is a really good representation of what departments are utilizing what portions of the revenue for and expenditures that come in through the county.
That's a nice one.
That's a great chart.
Yeah, that is a nice chart.
Thank you so much.
That's a new chart, right? That's a new chart.
This is a new chart.
Yeah, that's a nice chart.
And this is also, you'll see the detail, I don't remember what page it's on, but it's on one of the pages in the line item book.
I was just gonna make space for Charlie. For that top line.
Yeah, I was gonna say, boy, wasn't the sheriff's budget 176 million last year, which was still 40% of our general fund, and now it's 200?
That's one day.
Maybe if you don't know that previous
I
year.
don't think it went up by quite that much, but it's certainly the
Oh,
largest.
it's about 190.
All general
yeah.
fund.
And just so I know that I'm making good interpretation of the chart, there's a green line, and when that green line stops, that little amount
or if it's a yellow, mauve, whatever we're calling it, those we're saying on top of, and then on top of.
So like when you're looking at the sheriff, and I know this is really small and I apologize, but to try and get all the departments on there. So the green line is all of the general fund dollars, and then the beige or mauve or whatever we're gonna call that color, that is the part of the sheriff expenditures that are covered by grants. I do wanna point out, it is the largest piece of our general fund budget, but we also serve several communities, and that's all in this number. So we do have revenues that come back covering, like for Pontiac, we are the sheriff's office for the police department for them. So those numbers are all included in here, that's not broken out.
Thank you.
The next slide is Kyle's favorite slide, showing that we do have a structurally balanced budget this year. We did last year. We have a very small surplus. And then we have some one-time expenditures for IT things, the medical examiner, some other small items. And this is the slide that you see in most of our financial presentations because it's a cool slide. It shows that we're, our revenues and our expenditures are level and we're structurally balanced, which is really important. Anything you want to add to that? I know it's your favorite.
No, only that it's, she said it, it's your favorite slide, right?
It is his favorite slide. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna walk you through the budget documents because we sure get a lot of documents for the budget. We got the line item budget, which is the large book that you got
last week
before July 1st, which is required by the state to have that out by July 1st.
Yeah,
we got two books.
And then today, by the skin of our teeth, we got the categorical.
I like this one.
And all of these documents are on the website. If you click the link in the presentation, it'll take you right to the area where you'll see all the different budget documents.
So there was actually 2 big binders we got, so this is the third one now.
Yes, that's a categorical one.
So what were the first 2 big ones
That's
that we
the
received?
line item one.
So one was a line item, the second one
Both the
was.
line items,
We
but
only
you
got
got
one.
last year's one too.
Oh, you may have gotten last year. Yeah, it's just,
like
there's only
22
one.
to 24, this is 23 to.
Just bring
It'll,
it, the
it'll
the
say
latest one you got
24
is one
to
that
24 to
26.
26 is
One-
what you're.
But you got another 800 page one.
Yeah, bring
Because I
the
get
second one.
You got the previous one.
You should only have one.
23.
No, I have two also, but bring the last
So-
one you just got.
So everyone, we had got one way ahead of everybody.
Right.
We got one way ahead of everybody.
In June.
Oh, is that what it was?
And they gave us the other one
Maybe
when
that's what it is.
culture came
Okay.
to us, so just
Yes.
look at them.
Got it, okay.
Or it could be you got 2 years, they just, but I don't think that's that.
Got it.
I think they accidentally
bring
gave
the
us
late-
2
last
in the
one.
same year.
Yeah.
I got
But I
you,
would
okay.
bring
Usually we only get one, that's why Chair
Perfect.
saying you only need one.
One, got it, okay.
But this one is the.
Yeah, this is the one with all
This the one that
good data.
Plain stuff.
nitty gritty explains it, kinda
Yeah.
captures that book.
And I'm gonna show you how to use them together so that you don't have to carry that big one around. Because it is smaller than it was last year, but it's still in excess of almost 600 pages. It's a lot of information. And if you have certain areas that you're just trying to focus on or certain things that you wanna look at, it's really hard to find in that book.
Yep.
So all of that stuff is on the website. The book that you should have gotten July 1st is the big book or the line item book. It's the county executive recommended. There will be a finance recommended after we go through all the hearings and we have our conversations. And then that will come like late August, early September after we've had the hearings and all of our conversations. And then the adopted budget has to be adopted by September 30 by law. So we talked about the line item book. This is the 2 books and kind of what's in them. And I know it's a lot of data, but that's why I kind of wanted to walk you through how to use them together, because once I figured that out, it was a lot easier for me. So let me get to my next slide. Now these, I'm just gonna apologize, these are small, but these are designed to kind of give you the overview. So I'm gonna use the clerk's office. So if you go to like page 27 in the categorical book, you will see the very brief breakdown of the clerk register of deeds. You're gonna see the grants and a total, you're gonna see the expenditures and a total, and they're broken down by the major categories. Holy moly, what happened to that slide?
She was blowing it up for her.
That's okay, that works. So I'm focusing in here on commodities. So let's say you're looking at the clerk's office and you see that the commodities have gone up 20% and you wanna know what's going on with that. On the very next page, there is going to be some verbiage that will walk you through. You'll see commodities, there's a net increase, tells you what it is and tells you that it's from the election cycle. We all know the election cycle is a little cyclical. Sometimes there's more things on the ballot, more things going on during an election cycle than others. The cool part about this verbiage is at the top it tells you page 288. If you go to page 288 in your line item book, then you're gonna see this kind of detail. So you're gonna see all the lines that are in there and you can see that, oh, okay, election supplies went up a significant portion of that increase. So
where
instead
is
of
that?
That's in the big book.
I know, but where does it tell me what page it's on in the?
It's on the top,
On the
see?
very top,
Top left
it says county clerk, page 288.
So that 288 means
On
the
the very
big,
top of where the verbiage is.
so that means the big book.
That's gonna be in page 28 of your categorical. I'll slow down.
This is good though, no one ever did this for me 20 years ago.
Oh,
I didn't figure it out.
gotcha. Thank you.
Okay,
That's good.
everybody went on the same place?
Yes.
Did y'all do this before with the page numbers and stuff?
Yes, but no one ever told it, like she's telling us, for 20 years, this is the first time, you had to figure it out
I
myself.
hadn't noticed it
Yeah.
until Cheryl pointed it
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah, I figured it out years ago, but
Thank
it
you,
took me,
you're
you know.
helping our sanity here.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it's the same thing for me. I mean, I'm a numbers person, but you know, when I look at 600
Tells you
pages
where
of
to
numbers,
go.
what am I supposed to do with this?
right.
So this just made logical sense to me. So this is gonna help you, one, not have to carry that book around, cause one, it's online. You can, if you're flipping through the little book in your spare time, you can hop online and see this. And it's just easier to focus on, cause I've done this for a very long time and I've been in front of a lot of commissioners and councils and I know that every council member has an area that they flip to first. I'm just gonna go see, what have you done? And so this is gonna help you get to that space and then show you how to see the detail if you still have questions.
Books.
And I think that's
Don't we miss her?
The books.
That's basically how this works. If you guys have any questions about this, I haven't checked all of them, but I did, you know, double check everything with the clerk's office. I know it ties the way I say it ties. And I'm not sure the slides are public. So if you guys wanna go back and look at the slides to help figure it out, look at the page numbers, we do put those page numbers on the top. And I will say, when we first started putting the categorical together, the team puts these page numbers on there by hand. I'm like, what in the world are you doing that for? Now I understand. And we're gonna continue to do that to make it easier for everybody. So the other piece that I feel is important is the budgetary control. So as you look at how we give you a line item budget, but that doesn't mean that if I can't go over in supplies and then have, you know, printing materials under it. I can fluctuate in those as long as these particular control categories are still within budget in totality. So for personnel, if I'm short 3 people and I end up having people that are working overtime, I don't necessarily have to make a budget change for that because my personnel budget is still intact. So it allows the managers to utilize the funds that they have in a normal, resourceful way, and they don't have to keep keeping an eye on those line item things. They would have to spend a lot of time doing that. So personnel expenditures are all in one group. That would include salaries, fringes, overtime, things like that. Operating expenditures, which are commodities, supplies, staples, things like that. Contractual services, professional services. So for example, if you are gonna have a professional service for like $10,000, you want someone to do something for you and then you realize you have an in-house you can just purchase that. You don't have to make a budget change for that because it can stay in commodities or contractual services and it still is considered within the budget. So they're not overspending in those areas.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
So then to that too, if I understand right, that then allows the executive side to do their job without having to like wait 3 weeks to do civic clerk, to then come before us to tell us why you want to spend $10,000 on changing this or that.
Yes.
So that's.
But it has to stay within,
Within their budget.
it has to stay within the departments. So I can't say, well, I'm taking personnel out of sheriff and I'm gonna put it in fiscal services, I can't do that. But as a fiscal service person, I can have people work overtime instead of, if I'm having a hard time hiring someone. Okay,
But that also then means that our budget asks for our like caucuses or our conversations are important to do now, so we don't mess up your budget later by trying to ask for $100,000 for something in a month, when if we could just work on it in the budget, then it trues it up. So making sure we talk about that as caucuses is important.
yeah, I don't think it messes up the budget, I think it trues up the budget.
Okay.
You know, I don't think there's a way to mess up the budget, you know, we are in charge of, you know, citizens' dollars, so I don't think we mess it up, I think we just need to, you know, we just plan better. Okay. And this is all based on the General Appropriations Act, that we have these controllable categories, so it's not like I decided. I don't want that kind of power. The other thing that I wanna point out in the large book, cause there is a lot of detail in the large book there's personnel positions and numbers and all of those kinds of things in there, if that's your thing. There's a whole section, have fun. But there's also a professional services contract appendix, and I understand this is a few years new. And this is designed to just have a list of all the professional service contracts that are out there that are over, I think in excess of 100,000. And they have not gone, there's specifications based on the miscellaneous resolution of you know, what you guys have decided you wanted to see. So what we do, all we do is compile these. So if you go through that list and you see you've got a specific question about a particular vendor or a professional service contract, make sure that you make a note and request that information from the departments. I believe that we put the list together. Do we sort it by department?
Yes.
So we sorted it by department, so you can look at the departments. If you run through any of those during any of the budget hearings, that would be the place to ask those, cause we don't really have any judgment on those. We're just compiling them so that you guys have the information.
Commissioner Long.
I would like to thank you for this because that's always my question, those professional service contracts, because some of them are quite large.
Yes.
So that is a wonderful new addition, so that was
Yeah, I
always,
think this is.
that was always my bug, those
I
professional
can't
contracts.
take credit for this one,
so.
I think this was.
Yeah, that's a nice feature,
But I'll keep it going.
yeah, keep it going.
You
That's
answered
good.
our question with
Right.
something useful, so you
Right.
can think of it that way.
Awesome, I love that. But as I said, any questions, just take those out to the department. And then my last slide, told you I was gonna make this quick. Just talking about, you know, you all are familiar with the process. Anything that we discuss in the budget hearings that we're getting ready to do, like, nothing is going in the finance committee recommended until the wrap-up session and it all gets decided. So any questions, feel free to ask them before them, ask your departments what's going on, and we'll see you at the budget sessions, I guess.
You'll be here,
Thank you very
somebody
much.
from your department will be here for each of the budget
Yes, absolutely,
hearings.
absolutely.
Good.
I know that we have forwarded the schedule to the budget analysts, and I know that there could potentially be some changes that I think that, you know, as the departments kind of shuffle what's gonna work for them and what's not gonna work for them. But if not, all three of us, certainly the majority of the three of us will be available.
Okay, good.
And I'm usually always listening online as well.
Ooh, always listening.
Always listening.
Okay.
Did I, how'd I do? Am I good?
Good.
Nothing to add?
Great.
Okay, great.
Really? All right.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna be
That was
there
good.
last year when they introduced you.
Aw.
Well, thank you.
You made
Anybody
Kyle
have any
look
other
really good.
questions or comments for our fiscal services people and our finance management and budget director?
Okay, well, I guess we're good for today. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.
I think next week.
Next up, we have our second public comment.
Oh, I thought we were gonna do the calendar.
Oh, we have a motion on the table to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, received and filed.
Calendar's on there, Charlie.
Yeah, I know, but I was gonna ask about that. That's before public comment.
We have the calendar on there as well, Chair.
That's the next item, yeah.
No, he has a question about it.
Thanks, Bob.
About the public comment or the
Calendar.
Calendar.
Calendar's a separate item,
Okay,
yeah.
9B.
No, but he wants to ask
Yes.
them about it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, I just wanted to know, what should we expect for budget wrap up? Can you help define that for us? Cause I don't know if I know what that means.
What do you wanna see?
Now I'm up.
Is that what you do?
Not necessarily what I do, but in collaboration with Fiscal Services, Chair Markham and Chair Woodward, yes, what we'll be doing during budget wrap-up is making sure that all the discussion about possible amendments that happen during those budget hearings come to this committee and are moved over to the full board. Obviously, there could still be budget amendments that happen at the full board, but really you should think of that budget wrap-up as your opportunity to try and get any amendments that you would like to see or your caucus would like to see at the Finance Committee for approval.
At budget wrap up?
Yeah, September sixth.
Okay. We all hear that?
Yeah, September sixth.
And so just to comment real quickly, obviously you have the calendar. Things could shuffle around if departments decide that they can't make it that day or need to make a change, but we have confirmed a majority of our hearings, and so we hope that this will be the final calendar. If you have any concerns on days that you're not gonna be able to make it, please coordinate with staff. As you know, there won't be any votes taking place at these meetings. This is going to be receive and file. So we certainly want to make sure we can have you participate in any way possible. Okay?
okay, thank you. All right, I need a motion to receive and file the budget
Glamour
schedule.
shots.
Commissioner Powell, supported by Commissioner Hoffman.
Discussion?
Discussion by
Once
Commissioner
he
Charles.
does, the next one.
What's on the menu?
So certainly because we are a public meeting and we are going to have very long meetings, we will be working through the county policy to provide some refreshments and snacks for both commissioners and the public. So don't necessarily have a breakdown of the menu, but as you know, we try to keep it local, and so we'll be we'll go ahead and use the cafeteria downstairs that helped us out last year really well, so.
Thank you, young man.
Yeah, anytime.
Excellent, okay, so let's go ahead and prompt the vote on receive and file the schedule for the budget hearings. I think it's funny, we're gonna end up with Chris Ward in Parks and Rec.
Yeah, maybe we can go park and rec. After we get done.
Oh,
Good
And-
posture.
Are we prompting the vote?
8 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, motion carries. And just in case you wanna know what's going on, Sarah's trying to get some shots for the website.
The yearbook.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh, okay, take my glasses off.
She's not.
I think Charlie dressed for the occasion today.
All right, next up we have
Right, yeah,
item
right.
10, our public comment, second public comment. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board at this time? Seeing no one, I'll close public comment. Is there any other business to come before the Finance Committee today? Seeing none, I will call this meeting adjourned at 12:33.
Charlie's gotta go, he's